G'day everyone, this is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Um, we had an eventful day for FOMC day, and it's kind of looking like this was the last couple of thrusts before the market just ejaculates all over everyone. Sorry for the metaphor, but yeah, there's a couple of key points here. Total versus stable coins. We finally had the retest that I wanted on the bull market support band. Let's go to the daily. And this is the band that supported the entire bull market. This trend line. We broke below pretty emphatically. Similar to the past. I thought this retest here might have been the only one for a little while, but we have come back up and hit it, and we rejected it pretty hard. Now, the one caveat on this is this could just be a little bit of coiling before we actually try and break through this. Now, the other thing we've got to remember here, though, is there is a lot of confluence around here. So whichever way we do go, it's probably going to, like, this thing's been coiling for a while. It's probably going to go pretty hard. Now, there's obviously you got the bull market support trend line. You got this trend line here, which has sort of provided resistance ever since the all-time high. So we've got that to get through as well. I'm not saying we can't do this, because funny thing is, while we've retested that bull market support and rejected off it for the time being, we've actually retested the top of this wedge, which technically that could lead to a breakout to the upside that's pretty significant as well. Right back into these candles here, which I think equates to about 88, 89K. Sorry, closer to 90K, I think. The other thing we've got to keep in mind is the fact that this is a trend line. So as we did yesterday, said there's the potential that this is actually forming a bear flag rather than just the wedge or the pennant, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it kind of could be playing out that way as well. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in this market. It's going to be a real suck it and see kind of thing. But for the time being, that's a stronger reaction than I expected to the Fed holding rates. I thought the market would take that a lot worse, and maybe this is just the final throw before it drops. I was kind of, the ideal scenario for me was we would actually get a drop back into somewhere around here. I was thinking more around these moving averages where the vector candles are. A drop into that leading into the FOMC, and then the Fed reduces interest rates and we see a bounce and we break through all this. The fact that we're kind of seeing the opposite, that's, in my view, isn't great. Especially since we've just smacked into this and rejected from it. Now, 15-minute chart on Bitcoin, we are overextended to the upside, but at the same time, there is a lot of momentum to the upside. So, and this little wick here around the FOMC decision did come down and retest the 200 EMA on the 1 hour, so the 800 on the 15. That is of interest. I don't know that it'll leave that there. I get a funny feeling we are coming back to that point relatively soon. At the moment, this little bounce just looks like vector candle recovery. We haven't seen a turnaround yet on this reverse EMA, but when we do, if we're crossing the 13 EMA on the 15-minute at the same time as this thing turns down, or very soon after this turns down, that normally would lead to a pretty big retracement. Okay, so that's one thing I'm looking at. We've got a bit of a momentum shift on cumulative volume delta as well. I'll have a look at how spot's going as well. But we've been on this one, the FBE forward backward EMA indicator tends not to stay that high for very long. And when it comes out of that, you tend to get a fair bit of downside. So just be aware of that. And same thing here, it was hitting extremes on the linear regression channel. And let's just have a look at that for comparison. So same sort of thing, a little bit of a dip before it, a move up, lots of vector candles, pulls back, some vector candle recovery, and then we just sort of chop sideways and down. And eventually we actually lost those key moving averages as well. I don't know whether it'll play out exactly the same as that, but it certainly rhymes at the moment. And I would suggest it's looking weaker here. I just can't really say that until we come back across the 13 EMA while this thing is actually dropping. Funnily enough, that was not a trigger to exit the trade because we broke through 13 EMA on that candle there. But what I look for is actually 2 candle closes below that are negative, 2 in a row. I won't close it on a positive candle, even if it does close below the 13 EMA. And that tends to give me better results. Don't worry about this. This is not triggering on something I would trade at the moment, even though that would have worked out pretty good. That's sort of how I look at the 15-minute 13 EMA as support at the moment. It just avoids the fake outs, especially when you're above the 50 EMA. So anyway, for the time being, I do expect this to roll over. It could still grind higher. I am primarily short now. Just have a little hedge on for a bit of protection, but yeah, got very close to the 86K mark as well, which was something that we had on the charts as a potential target previously. So it's taken us forever to get to that point. This is the bit that concerns me, though. We need to, if markets are going to go up significantly, we need to break this to the upside. Basically clear all this with a retest. I think that is pretty important. So just heading to Bitcoin. I mean, looking at Bitcoin, that's a pretty good break. I haven't really hit this trend line yet. Maybe I haven't drawn it very well, but that's suggesting there is a little bit more to go. And realistically, I would have liked to have tapped into this area here up around 88. Couple of reasons for that. There is a fair bit of liquidity up there to grab. Um, there is a volume node here as well, so reasonably high volume through that point. But realistically, if it's going to get there, you would kind of expect it to grab these vector candles here. One of the interesting moves today was Ethereum. And Ethereum may actually outpace Bitcoin for a change. Well, it should be at the moment, yeah. These guys would be stoked. ETH BTC longs, they've flattened off here. I'm surprised they haven't actually taken more profit. Some of the more recent longers. But generally, that's a pretty good breakout of ETH versus BTC. Could just be a retest here of sort of this key level in here. If we start to break back down below the 50 EMA, I think that would suggest it's done again. But for the time being, that's pretty good. There's a value area high here that it may tap into, but it has recovered this 1 hour wick, vector candle here. So it doesn't have to go all the way into that. I would consider that vector candle recovered. The next significant vector candle is actually up around 2300. There's a couple more above that as well. So if we do go on a run, if that was the bottom of the market, I'd actually expect ETH to get back up around 2.5. It's probably going to do it slowly, but there is a chance that it doesn't do it at all. We've got to, in my mind, we've got to break through these levels. I think we've got to do a little bit more work recovering this vector first, but at the moment, it's forming a doji. 15 minutes to go. I tend not to like seeing dojis at the highs, but Bitcoin can just continue through. The important thing is it is finding resistance there at the moment, and we need to be pretty careful around that level. And again, I think the total versus stable coins is actually a better chart to be giving us direction than what the actual Bitcoin chart is. It's actually like this channel's forming better. The resistance levels have been better. That bull market support trend line is like that's been a pretty good way to pick tops and bottoms. So let's have a look how the general market. Yeah, okay. So the Qs didn't actually make a new high there. It got rejected from the 200 EMA on the 1 hour. It's basically, excuse me, was vector candle recovery. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, momentum's to the upside, BBWP's to the upside, so we could get continuation here. Needs to break this with some force, though, I would say. So you need a decent break above, retest, and then a move back to the upside. It is looking like a bottoming pattern. Like it is looking like a change in trend. Would have preferred to have seen it break above that during FOMC, though. I am surprised the market didn't actually react negatively to the rates on hold. So this could just be a bit of a fake out to the upside. Yeah, not great on the NASDAQ. NDX, same sort of deal. So that's interesting. The mini futures did actually wick above that level, so that would have taken out some short liquidity. And a bit of a nasty looking doji here. Not saying it can't go up from here, it's just surprised it's finding a fair bit of resistance. So Bitcoin may struggle a little bit today because of this, like NASDAQ not really breaking out too much. Qs look a bit more positive, but equal weight. But again, it hasn't really broken that high. There is a gap too on the Qs. Well, it's heaps of gaps, but yeah. I mean, it's got some strength there with BBWP and momentum heading up. So at the moment, the market actually seems okay with the rates decision. I mean, over 1% up across the board is pretty positive generally. Hard to be negative on that. And we are still above and have retested some of those key trend lines. So again, yeah, broken above that trend line. Didn't really retest it yet though. So obviously it looks like I was wrong about pulling back into the FOMC meeting. We could actually get the pullback after the FOMC meeting. So just be aware of that. We have retested this level here on equal weight and moving away from it. So we don't necessarily have to come back into that level or anything like that. But this was a fairly highly traded zone though too on the equal weight that we're just come into. So some chop is to be expected. IWM has actually broken above that level. That's an interesting one. So IWM, if there is going to be a market bounce, IWM should probably lead it in terms of percentage gains. Doesn't have to, but IWM's probably going to have some resistance up around here too. That's interesting. That was just the measured move, but it's actually formed a trend line. It's not bad in there. Yeah, IWM, obviously there's some vector candle recovery that's gone on. There is some gaping holes of liquidity up here that it'll probably try and get to, but for the time being, it's going to be a grind up, I'd say. You just got to remember that after moves down like that, there's always a chance that we actually make another low soon after, or at least retest the lows, come close to them, which XLY, XLP, you'd kind of say has already done that, but at least got close to the lows. So a break above this on XLY, XLP, so that line there, I would like to see a break of that to be particularly bullish. Hasn't even really touched the 200 EMA though either. XLP versus SPY. Again, this is kind of just breaking below that trend line. Not on the daily though. The daily's where we drew the trend line, so got to be a little bit careful there. I'd really like to see that breaking below that trend line to be properly bullish. Have not done that yet. Equal weight, XLY versus XLP. That's a strong move. That would suggest more upside. And equal weight, XLP versus SPY is actually continuing to the downside. So that's a good sign for upside. If that had actually not done that, I'd be a little bit more worried, but I do trust that move a little bit more. So that's a good sign. KRE has moved up as well. Touching, oh, excuse me, touching a 200 EMA almost. Just change that to a simple moving average and see what it looks like. Okay. So simple moving average, actually, it has touched that. And the reason I do that is traditional markets tend to use simple moving average for the 200 as the key support resistance. Bit of a rejection off that. It's not ideal. XLF. Rejection of the 50. I'd like to see XLF continue the upside. ITB, how are we looking on that? Retest of that level. That doesn't look great, actually. Home builders looks a little bit better. There was some positive economic data come through for home builders the other day. Oh. Sorry, got the yawns this morning. It is sort of confirming support there, though, so that is positive. Semiconductors still struggling with this level here. That's not great. We need semiconductors to break back inside that. DJI gold, a little jump. DJT versus gold is looking pretty sick still. Like, that's transport versus gold. And typically, when that's breaking levels and when that's going down, it's a bad sign for the economy as a whole. And it's still going down. I want to see recovery of these things. It's not. Although DJI recovering that level there is an interesting one. It is getting rejected from the 200 and the, what's that? That's the blue one's actually the 13 EMA. That's potential rejection there. It's hard to say yet. No real confirmation of that. VIX pulling back still. It's a good sign. Skew is grinding up slowly. Be interesting to see what today's read is on the skew. If that's another day up, then that will be positive. VIX one day, it is pulling back, so that's a positive for markets. Hasn't really broken back below this level though. That would be ideal. At the same time though, it's getting a fair bit of pullback when markets have not actually gone up that much. So if this keeps coming back to this point here and we haven't gone up very far, then I'd actually expect another leg down on markets. Something to keep in the back of mind. Just want to have a look at advanced decline line. Oh, that's an interesting one. So advanced decline line is actually back above these moving averages. That's important, and that's actually looking quite strong. That should support a bounce here and should support more upside. That's an interesting one. So DAX. DAX isn't looking great. I would have liked to have seen DAX make another high there. This is looking like a bit of a double top at this stage. Might just be having a rest, might just be a gap fill there. Markets are a tricky read at the moment. Hong Kong market still uptrend. Chinese market, as I said, this looks a little bit different to these ones where it just rejected straight after the vector candles. So there is a chance it will continue to the upside. I don't know. Everyone's thinking the Chinese economy is looking great, but I'm not necessarily the same opinion there. Yeah, Japanese market, strong rejection there off the 200. It's got a bit of work to do as well. 200 and the 50 coming in together there's going to be tough for it. TLT. Yeah, so TLT's it's an interesting move. So yields have actually come down. I have a funny feeling the bond market, that's high yields going up. Slammed into that resistance line though. That went up a lot. That's a pretty decent move. LQDIF still continuing the upside as well. So those two there, high yield and LQDIF, are suggesting further upside. The fact that Treasuries is going with them is interesting. Typically, if the economy is going really great, Treasuries normally coming down. Yeah, yields coming down. They're kind of going against the Fed's higher for longer stuff. That's, I guess, what I'm just trying to decipher here. It looks like there is some movement in safety still, so that could continue. Like even if the market goes up, it's just money shifting around. But yeah, that's interesting. Bond market looks like it's saying that they don't think the Fed's right at the moment. Copper, retest these highs. That's, man, I wish I could have traded copper. It's a strong candle close. The back closes up around there. Copper breaking out from that level would be a pretty good sign for the economy, really. We actually done that before. No, this would be an all-time high on copper. On this particular ticker, anyway. Strong monthly too. 12 days to go. A lot can happen in 12 days, but that's a pretty strong weekly candle too at the moment. So far, copper's looking pretty decent. I don't expect copper to keep going. Once it finds its next peak, I'd actually expect a decent retrace, so or at least a consolidation at the top. Gold still pushing a bit higher. That's pretty well a confirmed breakout there. I'd like to see a retest, but that's essentially 3 candle closes above. Let's see what silver's doing. Silver's actually coming down relative to gold. Jesus. Retesting his trend line though, so that's a tough trade. It's probably not a bad buy there for the breakout, but you're going to be. There is an argument that precious metals and rare earths and stuff are potentially going to go up with all the trade wars and stuff. Just because there are some of them only have one or two players that are actually manufacturers and suppliers globally. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on this year. Might start to look at some of them. Palladium, maybe. Oil, funny bit of support down the bottom here. This is coiling as well. So whichever way oil moves, it should be a decent move. And I have a feeling it's going to be up. Dixie. Yeah, coiling around that buy box. I do think Dixie's going up. This could just be a retest from the bottom side of these moving averages on the Japanese yen. Euro is finally topping out, I think. Just looking at that. A bit of a retest though, so we could chop sideways a little bit longer yet. M1 money supply is dropping a little bit. Global liquidity is like it did move up and it is staying just above the previous day, so it's not a bad sign. And markets have followed that effectively. Percentage of stocks above 15 moving average was a little flat yesterday. That will probably move up a little bit today. Mag 7 still struggling with this level. It actually looks like it should come back more still. No real confirmation either way yet, but not a bad little recovery of that trend line. Tesla. Yeah, it's coiling. This should lead to a upside move with a if we it'll lead to a decent upside move. If you break this level here, probably break 253. That should lead to a decent upside. We do have options expiry this week, I think, as well. Yeah. Quadruple witching, I think, this week. So tomorrow will be a fun one as well. Probably one to look at for Max Payne, just to see where that's at. Probably where we'll end up. That could be a bit of a nothing burger this week still. With the move to come next week. Ooh, Apple, big rejection off that 9 EMA on the daily. Yeah, Apple may pull back a little bit more. Triple M. Amazon's trying, not doing a very good job of it. Meta, still bouncing from this moving average and the 200 EMA there. Airbnb's trying to recover that level as well. Doing a reasonable job of it. AMD breaking above that trend line is a good thing. And it's sort of retesting and confirm this lower trend line. So that's good. AVGO, coiling. This could be sort of the last run that we get, or the start of the last run. SMCI just getting back above that lower support line. ASML, yeah, it's looking okay. TSM still coiling. Stellantis coiling. And the thing with these, big volume around the bottom here. Ford, big volume around the bottom. I'm liking upside on the market just because these are showing strength. I don't think they should be. I think it's ridiculous, but in terms of the overall economy and what the consumers are feeling at the moment, but the market is not the economy. So, yeah, QRE, yeah, that's confirming above the 50 at the moment. That's good. So, total crypto market cap. Again, we're still in a bit of a channel here, but that's looking reasonably positive. Looks like Bitcoin's actually wanting to do a proper test of that. I mean, that's a strong daily. That daily close, if we still got 4 hours to go, I don't know if we can or not, but as a daily close, that's pretty strong. If we can close back above this 200 EMA here, then yeah, the top of this channel is a target. And if not there, it could actually get up and recover a bit more of this vector candle here too. That was a strong rejection level though, so we've got to be a bit careful of that one. For the time being though, I think the 88 level is probably going to be quite a bit of resistance, as is the current level really. Just looking at that. We'll see what happens. I just want to have a quick look at some of the pivots too. See, we are getting overextended on the 1 hour cyclic RSI as well, and close to a pivot, but 86 300 would be an interesting level, but pivots, maybe a little bit of confluence lately, but I haven't been using them really for anything. I do like to look at the cyclic RSI every now and then though, because if we get that turning down this candle, it would be a bearish divergence on that on the 1 hour. Could still grind it a little bit higher, mind you. Just sometimes we get a break inside, we get another bounce up. That could find higher high where cyclic RSI gets a lower low, and you get this bottom band moving up quite quickly. I'm surprised it actually hasn't started moving up yet. So we could sort of coil a little bit up here rather than just a straight shot to the downside. Leaving a lot of vector candles behind here at the moment though, so that's a key consideration. Just quickly, Litecoin's showing strength. Sol is showing strength. Be good if Sol does keep going because there's a few of us in a Sol trade at the moment. Let's go to some of these. Right. Liquidation levels. We've taken out a lot of the short liquidations that have come in the last 24 hours already. That's a given. You know, some pretty decent ones, 221 million. Starting to build up around that 86.5 level now. There is a massive one here though, 133. If we just zoom out a little bit though, back out of the 3-day, taking a big one there, 224 mil. Not huge numbers above. Could still grind up and clear a bit of this level. Like some decent liquidity down around 80, but I'd say the primary target would be just below this wick, or just even just inside that wick. There's a good level there at 83.7. So it's just a matter of whether the bulls are exhausted yet. Short sellers can actually overpower them. Going out to the 1 week, there's a bit higher up, so it could keep grinding. 86.8, still got 73 mil. Pretty decent numbers. 2 week. Yeah, see, that has been a good level since way back here. 100 mil. Now sitting at 228 at 87k. And it's not much to really push it to the top of that band. So we'd be looking at we'd be looking at a breakthrough of this. That would be pretty cool. But 88-ish would be up around here. So even tomorrow we could see 88 quite easily. Whether we find a retest of this level, whether we can actually break out of this channel for a change, still to be seen, but I'd be suspecting that there is a chance of it, because there is decent liquidity up above that. We've still got a fair chunk around 91.4 as well. And then if we go out to the month, things will start to look a little bit different. Like there's a pretty decent gap. In terms of really big levels, like obviously there's stuff in here, but big levels, that's going to be a pretty big level to reach. Like it's going to have to see some significant inflows, I would say. Let's have a look at so the other thing that concerns me here is we're making higher highs on price. We're not making higher highs on spot cumulative volume delta, and that just to me suggests that the buyers are a little bit done here. Like they've bought in quite a bit through the lows, and they're starting to take some profits through the highs. So got to be a little bit careful. CBD on futures has taken a big jump, but futures has been late to the party here too. So could it be futures that drives this further? Yeah, it could easily drive it up to the 87, 88 level, but if spot doesn't come with it, and look, we're not really breaking down or anything at the moment, but spot at the same time isn't really going with it on this little move here. So something to be careful with. If spot starts to sort of really break down, particularly below this low here, then I'd suggest that we will actually pull back a little bit further. And if we haven't broken into any sort of key support levels by then, it'll potentially lead to potentially even a retest of the 76 level. It'll start to look pretty nasty. A lot of red coming through on the bid-ask delta as well. Price action is ignoring that at the moment. So, bit of a funny read there. Decent topping signal on perps. And we are pretty overextended at the moment. Bitcoin miners are still on average underwater. price action the way it is. Smart money's staying pretty high at the moment here, so they haven't really started to take profits. Dumb money's starting to pile back in, and that concerns me a little bit. But they'll keep buying all the way up. But yeah, I think once we see smart money start to drop below that 0.7 level, that'll be sort of confirmation that we've got the bottom in. I bet big trade at the low, at the close yesterday, and we've had a pretty decent move to the upside. I want to see what the close is like today, actually, whether we get any take profits. Ooh, little take profit there, probably. These guys are expecting more upside, though, so that's, well, I would think it's not a bad sign. Still not huge volumes compared to what we had across the top. Coinbase, these guys would be happy. They were most likely buying at the bottom. These guys would definitely be happy. That's 100% a buy. On the 2x long fund. They're not massive trades, though. I think there is still some expectation that, yeah, we'll get a bit of a bounce here, but overall, there's not huge money coming back into the markets after this drop. So XLP is still, yeah, so consumer discretionary, that's a good bounce on consumer discretionary. That does support a bit of overall market trend should be up. Maybe a little bit of take profit at the close there or after the close. Hasn't broken through a key level though. Want to see a break of 198.50-ish. Can do that, then upside is more likely. Technology sector, it's getting a decent bid on it. See if there's any big sells on that. No. Yeah, still expecting quite a bit of chop. XLF, well, trades are getting bigger as we're coming up here. I don't know that I like that too much, but it is good that it's still going up from there. Yeah. XME is an interesting one too. So it is, metals and mining is still grinding up, although it has pulled back into these levels here. So a little concerning. These could be sweeps here. But as I said, metals and mining, it'll potentially be one of the first to recover if we do see like a proper big drop here, but it's an interesting. That's to me suggesting there may be a little bit of downside yet. Tough one to call though. All right. Yeah, for the time being, 15-minute here is still grinding higher. At some stage today, I would expect a bit of a pullback, but for the time being, it's looking like it wants more. It's just if we get a rollover of this at these sort of levels, that doesn't happen that often. Can go higher, but we're already sort of overextended in the linear regression channel. So yeah, it's, I don't know. Tough read. Want to be seeing break of that 13 EMA, and I want to see this one coming down a bit as well. Potentially even a break of the 80 level on that to really suggest that we're going to pull back a bit harder. That's an interesting level there, though. That's a 1 hour vector candle recovery there. The other thing is we have actually broken out of this channel on the 15-minute that I had in there. It has been a pretty good channel. Breakout with a retest on the wicks, but a retest nonetheless. It's just whether this can spike up into here. You do have the 4 hour 200 EMA at 87,800 as well, so that kind of aligns with that key top of the other channel. So we could, over the next day or so, still grind a little bit higher, which would see us break that. Well, it'd see us break the bull market support trend line on the total versus stables, but probably still see us at a little bit of resistance. And it depends how we get there. If it actually takes us a couple of days to get up here, then we may actually, oops. Oh, so this is the bull market support trend line. Just drawn at a slightly different spot. So technically this one, if you draw it in this spot, we haven't got there yet. Again, look at it as a region, but let's just. So what I'm saying is basically, if we do sort of bounce around here and we just grind up and we get to that 87, 88K over here somewhere, like total hasn't really broken too far above this, then closures back below this after a break, especially a retest of it, even on the hourly, would not look good for Bitcoin. Okay. So at the moment, general grind up is still my bias at the moment. Short term, I'm actually expecting a pullback, potentially into this sort of region here, which on Bitcoin would be somewhere around 83.5 to high 83s. But there is a potential to find some support even before that, even around the 84.7 level, just because that was a pretty decent level. Bitcoin. It concerns me a little bit that we're leaving these here, but that can be a target for a week away. It's just, I prefer not to be leaving them there if we are going back into a bull market. All right. I think that'll do for today. Catch you later.